Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and in this episode of Major League Baseball picks, I'll on the prices that I think make for good bets using the predictive mathematical model I've built, affectionately known as Sideline, for games scheduled to be played on Monday, July 3rd, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, for your issue of projections of picks on every single game, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. Cost is under $1 per day. You'll get money line prices, run line prices, first five prices. I got that model built up, totals, numbers needed for A grade, plays, all sorts of information, weather information, and of course, exclusive access to our Discord chat. So lots of goodies over there. Again, that link's in the show description. Costs under $1 per day. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game and is not trying to forecast it to a T. It'd be a foolish and impossible goal. There are no right sides or wrong sides, or other prices where any side should be played. Whether using my model or someone else's, this is the probabilistic thinking. That's key to growing your bankroll instead of draining it. There will be ups and downs, but with this sort of thinking, those things will balance out in the long run, but are simply hard to foresee before they happen. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so the long-run profitability has been proven. Winning every single day is an impossible reality for any gambler. I've been doing a lot of solo shows here lately. The schedules haven't worked out, so it's good, Jake, to have you back on. Have a companion here to talk baseball with. We've had some downs here lately. I think this is our first back-to-back losing weeks of the season. It's the ups and downs of sports betting. The downs can really take a toll on you. I feel like it's sad when the losses happen. Thankfully, we've had way more wins than losses, but I am curious your take on how you deal with the downs, because every single bettor has to deal with this. And of course, we've had it here the last couple of weeks, and you hope to bounce back here this week before the All-Star break. But I'm just curious your take on how you handle that.
Yeah, I just, when I have like back-to-back weeks like this, I start re-looking at my process, because anybody can have a down week. That's just a thing. But I start reviewing my process to like make sure, like, hey, what am I doing wrong? And sometimes you're not doing anything wrong. It just bounces wrong. Like, got some guy's bat wakes up and it goes on a streak for 5 games and is just changing everything, but it's not a consistent performance and stuff like that. I mean, you just kind of relook at it, make sure you're still making the same consistent process kind of deal, and adjustment here or there could send you way back in the profitability.
And that's a great point. That's kind of what I did this weekend. I actually re-looked at some things and made a few tweaks, building out the first 5 model, and that actually caused me to kind of re-look at how I did the full game model a little bit, make some tweaks here, hopefully for the better. But it is a great point, and it's a tough thing, I think, for bettors to try to figure out. I'm a big believer in trusting the process, trusting your process, whatever that happens to be. But yeah, when you have a couple of losing weeks, you have to stop and think, is the process still working and I just have to stick with it or not? And that's a tough thing to figure out. It's easy after one bad day to just be like, I'm just trusting the process, 2 bad days, whatever. But when it's kind of like a couple of weeks where you just feel like you're in a funk, how do you handle it? So for me personally, we don't have any first 5 picks today. We'll talk about a little bit first 5, sprinkling in a little bit of that in, I think, can help, especially this time of year with bullpens starting to get really fatigued. But then also, at least for me personally, trying to kind of focus in on what's my favorite play for each game and not trying to push things too much and not trying to do multiple plays in each game. So in today's show, I'll talk about, here's my favorite play. I kind of like this other one too, but I'm not going to make it because I'm just going to focus on the one play. So hopefully we'll have some good discussion on these 4 games. But before we get to those, some quick reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, then you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. You can see how I scale picks on the screen and in the Google Sheet with the season results and all sorts of fun metrics and ratings. That link is in the show description, but as always, with scaling and with the picks, take what you like and leave the rest. 2-day games today here on Monday. We're going to cover one of those. First, the one we're going to cover here, 2:05 p.m. Eastern, Astros at the Rangers. Astros taking 2 of 3 here from the Rangers in this series, a big series for the division race. Astros have been I've got 4 or 5 games behind the Rangers, it seems like, for over a month now. So a chance to win 3 out of 4 is huge for the Rangers, a chance to salvage and keep that lead. Big game here for July, especially early July. Big game for before the All-Star break. Christian Javier versus Martin Perez. Javier, I've mentioned, I feel like he's taking a real big step back. I'm not a huge fan of what he's done this year. There's an article, I believe, in The Athletic recently talking about his fastball velocity being down and if the Astros are going to skip his turn of the rotation a few times and how they're going to get him ready for the postseason. He was fantastic last year, but he now actually rates below league average, according to Sideline, with his struggles this season. And that's obviously really disappointing because he was so good last year, so much fun to watch. I'm just not as big of a fan of him this year. I think the Rangers are probably going to be able to touch him up a little bit. Martin Perez actually ranks a little bit worse and is a lefty, and the Astros rank really well against lefties or project really well against lefties, being almost exclusively a right-handed lineup these days, especially without Yordan. Not that Yordan can't hit lefties. But, Martin Perez is a guy who's had some success against the Astros in years past. That's something to keep an eye on. I'm not really sure how predictive that is, but I do know as an Astros fan, I've seen him, have more success than you would think he should against this team. This is a situation where if you're with us on Dub Club, you got the early projections, and you could have locked in what would have been probably a B grade pick on the Rangers at about minus 107 yesterday. That value's gone at this point. It's now minus 122. So I think the side, it's really a tough pick. I think it's priced pretty well. Model says the Rangers win 54% of the time, and the correct price is minus 116. So they should be slight favorites at this point. But I think it's priced really well. Instead, I'm going to stick to the over 9. Model projects 9.9 runs. And like I said, Martin Perez below average. Astros really right-handed heavy. Rangers bullpen below average. Astros should put up a few runs. And again, I as much as I like Javier, the underlying metrics for him are really discouraging. This Rangers offense is really good. I'm going to go over 9 here. You can look over in the first 5 is a pretty good edge as well. If this is 9.5 for whatever reason, I don't know where the number's going to go, but if this is 9.5, I would probably look to first 5 over. I wouldn't like to go over 9.5. That 9's a pretty key number here in baseball, but over 9 at minus 110, I think is a pretty solid investment. Jake, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I love this over 9. It's just very attractive. With both these offenses can really punish pitchers that make mistakes, and unfortunately, Valdez and Perez are guys that have been making mistakes this year at times. And I mean, it's not anything, especially if that's right with the Athletic and his fastball slowed down. That's dangerous because that's just going to be batting practice, especially. And this is a dome, right?
Yeah.
Or is it open? I can't remember if they opened the roof or not.
Not on a day game in July. It'll definitely be closed.
Yeah, I forgot about Texas. Yeah, but this
is a game to the old stadium though, where this game would have been hotter than blazes, and the total should have been like 13 or something in the old stadium, because the way, especially at the end of that stadium's life, they did a thing where they like tried to open up something behind home plate for like better views, and it created this like wind tunnel. And a hot day, that wind would just be blowing out like crazy, and just be insane amounts of runs of the summer games there. Unfortunately, that's gone. Now we have a more controlled environment there.
Yeah, but I just think these offenses are just way too punishing to have not your best pitchers going.
And we've seen that with the Astros as of late. They definitely can struggle against the better pitchers, but against the weaker pitchers, we saw it against the Cardinals last week. Against weaker pitching, they really can take advantage. And again, especially against, and I mentioned this before with the Astros, I'm a little bit more optimistic after taking the first 2 in the series. But as an Astros fan, it's hard to back them against a good pitcher, especially a good right-handed pitcher. But against a weaker pitcher and or a lefty, that sets up for them to have success here. So again, Perez has done okay against the Astros historically. He's had some better starts, but Perez also this year, the underlying metrics are worse this year than any of the last couple of seasons. And so that's also, if you're looking to Perez has done well against the Astros, that might have been an older version of, or a previous version of Perez. Now that we have an older version in this current form, it sets up for the Astros score. Somebody should score some decent amount of runs here, going over 9 there in the afternoon. 7:10 p.m. Eastern, going from my team to your team here. Braves at the Guardians. A nice night in Cleveland, mid to low 70s. Wind will be blowing in at 5 to 10 miles an hour. So you have a pretty pitcher-friendly ballpark, especially with the wind blowing in. It's going to favor the pitchers in this one. Bryce Elder is a guy I've long talked about. Not as good as that 2.44 ERA, but the underlying metrics say he's still a very good pitcher, gets a lot of ground balls. He's a guy who should continue to outperform his peripherals. Gavin Williams, in his 2 starts, 2.84 ERA, but the advanced metrics say that he's not pitching that well. Model still rates him below league average. Obviously, anybody facing this Braves offense is going to be up against it. 2 sets of good bullpens here. Model says the Braves should win 63% of the time, that the correct price should be minus 173. So I'm going to be on the Braves here at minus 155. It's a B grade pick. A grade would be minus 149 or better. So a solid investment here on the Braves. Recently reformulated. Now I have, I guess I should have talked about this at the start of the show. I've got 4 tiers on A, B, C, D rather than just A, B, C. So kind of splitting the A grades. This would have been an old A minus pick. Now it's a B grade pick. So still definitely one that I think is worth investing in. You could look Braves first 5 as well. The edge is about the same, but both these bullpens are good and this Braves offense is good. I'd rather lay the extra dime and just go full game and avoid weird variance. You don't know when the runs are going to come, that sort of thing. I'd be looking more first 5 if I was really worried about the Braves bullpen, or if I thought, they're going up against the best bullpen in the baseball or something or whatever. Both bullpens are good. Guardians also played a game that went pretty late last night. Didn't play on Sunday Night Baseball with the rain delay, the extra innings that could have taken a toll on the bullpen and just the freshness of the Guardians. So I'll just go full game Braves. And then the total, I like the under 9. I'm not playing it. It's my second favorite pick in this one, but I think if you wanted to go under 9, that's not a bad look. Model says 8.2. I like the Braves a little bit more than the under, simply because unders and Braves games are scary. We got a good under with the Braves on Saturday against the Marlins, but the way the Braves scored early, that was very scary. So I think if you want to play a total, I think under 9 makes a lot of sense, but I'm just going to focus in on the Braves. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, I love being a Braves fan this year. It is just fun. We're good. It's great. I'm so happy.
And you've got like half of your pitchers are hurt, and you're still this good. Like, imagine if you actually had a healthy rotation.
Yeah, I know. It's I just love it. But Elder is great. He has absolutely surprised me with how good he is this year. I didn't expect that. You're right. The ERA feels a little bit lucky, but not that much. I don't think it would be that much higher. But this offense, I think part of that is the confidence he gets to throw with. Because, if he gives up 2 or 3, he's like, okay, that's fine. We're going to get 5. And the Guardians, man, their offense just disappears at times. I don't think they just haven't looked great to me this year. And especially coming off all the extra innings, rain delay, all that. I know they're at home, but I don't think that's going to work out well. The Braves right now are not a team you want to see if you have any kind of disadvantage, and I think that's a big disadvantage. Like we've seen with Sunday Night Baseball, they might as well have been the Sunday Night Baseball game. So I just think this Braves team, with the way they're hitting and the pitching's good, and their bullpen seems to be getting better. I'm sorry, Guardians, but this is all over the Braves.
Yeah, and that game didn't end that much earlier than the Sunday night game did either, because of everything getting delayed. They did have to travel. That game was in Chicago. Guardians looked a little bit better this weekend than they looked in the past, but that was also against the Cubs, a Cubs team that's been also very up and down. I feel like all the Central teams, AL and NL, have been that way, right? They're like the Pirates. They were great and they were terrible, and then now they're like good again, right? And are good relative to those standards. And that's kind of how all these Central teams have looked. They've all been kind of up and down, and it seems like they look a little bit better when they play each other, and then when they go outside of the division, they look a little bit worse. So it's like, sure, the Guardians looked better playing the Cubs. Okay, well, it's another Central team, right? That's kind of how all the Central's gone, and it's a whole different world when you're playing a team like the Braves. Minus 155. I think a little bit short. This Braves team is really well. I'm surprised that we're not having to pay a higher premium on the Braves. I'm surprised we're still backing the Braves. I feel like this is a situation where in years past, I've seen these types of teams become, especially popular teams like the Braves, one of the top, 5, for sure 10 most popular teams in baseball, playing well, and the lines just get runaway crazy because everyone's backing them. And I'm just surprised it hasn't happened here, where the number is just so out of range where we couldn't play them. The fact that it's still pretty good value surprises me, but I think part of that's Elder. I think people are just like still down on him, and it's like, no, he's actually pitching really well. His fastball velocity really concerned me last year, but he's picked it up an extra mile an hour or two, and that really makes a big difference. He's getting hit pretty hard, but he's getting so many ground balls. He reminds me of a young Framber Valdez, who at this point is probably the front runner for the AL Cy Young Award. Who knows if Elder will turn into that, but that same sort of thing where Framber just made a living in started becoming really good by just saying, I'm going to let you hit the ball on the ground. And that's what Elder's doing. And you get guys to get ground balls and this type of baseball, and that works out really well. So a good pitcher to back here in Elder. You can go under as well. If you want to go Guardians team total under, that's another way to look. A lot of ways to attack that one.
Yep.
8:10 p.m. Eastern, Royals at the Twins. Warmer one in Minnesota. Low 80s. Wind will be blowing out really strong to start. Over 10 miles an hour to start, around 5 miles an hour to finish. Pretty neutral park overall. That's really affected by how cold, how warm the wind, etc. This is going to be a warm night. The weather's going to bump the projected total up a lot because of the warmth in Minnesota, well above average temperature and wind blowing out. Austin Cox for the Royals pitched pretty well here in his first start. Has had a few bullpen outings, but the underlying metrics suggest that it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, that he's a below average pitcher at this point. Joe Ryan, probably about as good as that 3.44 ERA, a very solid pitcher. This Twins team, kind of like we talked about with the Central, right? Could look better when you're playing other teams in the Central. Otherwise, probably a disappointment if you're a Twins fan. A solid bullpen, not great, not as good as I hope, but decent enough. Much better than the Royals, especially now that the Royals have traded Chapman. Offensively, the Twins, at least around average, which again, I know is a disappointment. They were hoping to have a better offense, especially once they brought Correa back, but still better than the Royals. So it's like, I don't want to dog on the Twins too much because their competition is much worse. Model says this should be Twins minus 243. The current price is minus 217. It would be a B grade pick on the money line if you want to lay it. I don't think that's a bad look if you want to lay bigger odds. Model says the Twins win 71% of the time. So even at minus odds, it's still a plus expected value play. A grade price would be minus 206 or better. I'm going to go to the run line, though, and take the Twins minus 1.5 at minus 115. B grade pick, and A grade on this would be minus 107. So still pretty good edge here at minus 115. Not that top tier confidence level, or not confidence level, top tier, value proposition, right? The probability is what it is. The price just changes the return. But part of the other reason I like this run line here is that the model also likes the over 9, projects 9.9 runs, warm day, wind blowing out. That creates more runs, and more runs means a higher likelihood of winning by more than one. Even though it's the home team, I'm going to take the Twins on the run line. But again, whether it's over, whether it's Twins team total over, whether you're playing it safe on the money line, you got a lot of ways to attack this one. Jake, how are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I love the Twins minus 1.5 here. I like getting the more payout for the same. I view as the same risk. The Royals are bad. The pitcher, not great. The hitting, not great. The fielding, not great. They're just bad. Twins can really be really good offense. You see flashes of it.
Yeah.
And then they just forget about it every once in a while. At least Gallo's having a better year. But than he did with the Yankees. But Correa's been a big letdown this year so far. I just think they're at least a much better team than the Royals. It should be able to win this with the weather and everything. Should really help out the scoring. So we should be able to win this about 2, 3, 4, 5 runs.
Yeah, and the Royals, winning 3 out of 4 is probably the first time they've won 3 out of 4 all season. 2 of those against the Dodgers was really surprising, of course. And I wonder if we're getting a little bit of value on this because of the fact that they beat the Dodgers 2 games. But, we always talk about baseball. Weird things happen. You can't, and this is why we talk about you can't overreact to one game. The Royals might win this game. I have no idea, right? I'm not trying to pull up my magic 8-ball or something, because no one would have really thought the Royals could take 2 or 3 from the Dodgers, even at home, right? That was still a surprising result. And so the way you played it, we actually were on the Royals with an A grade pick on Sunday. Why is that? About the price. And it turned out that it worked out well for us, right? But, the Royals still are a bad team. And, I remember last year, I think the Pirates went out, a bad Pirates team went out and swept the Dodgers last year. And then everything went on to being the way it was right after that, right? The Dodgers started winning again and the Pirates were losing again, right? And so I'm not really taking too much from that. I mean, it was good for them to win those 2 games. Part of that was, I think, the Dodgers, 2 pitchers who I've long talked about, I think were getting massively lucky in the last year and a half in Urias and Gonsolin, both kind of falling back on their faces. I don't think Joe Ryan is that type of guy who's been very lucky. Now, he may give up a few home runs. He's slightly more heavy on the fly ball than the ground ball, and on a hot day with the wind blowing out, he may give up a few runs. That's why I said I like the over. But I think both teams will score. It's just you have to trust this Twins offense on a day like this against the Royals pitching to put up a ton of runs. This feels like a 7-4 type game, where sure the Royals are going to score a few, but the Twins should be able to put up a big crooked number. So kind of like the over, kind of like the Twins on the money line, kind of like the Twins team total over. Official pick Twins run line, but again, a lot of ways to attack that one as well. And then wrapping us up, late night game here, 9:45 p.m. Eastern, Mariners at the Giants. Chilly night in San Francisco, as always, it seems like. Mid-50s. Wind will be blowing out, but in that park, will it be blowing out? We never really know. Directionally, it swirls around like crazy in there. It's still a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark. But the other thing that's going to help the pitchers here in this one is the fact that the Mariners are involved, right? And they occasionally seem to play in some higher scoring games, but I still think their offense is pretty average. Their bullpen's still pretty good. Brian Wu, for them, is a guy I've talked about every time he's been on. I feel like I cover the Mariners game. 4.37 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it should be about 3. He's getting close to a league average projection, which is pretty impressive given that the only data we have on him coming into the season coming into his major league appearances here is AA. Pretty solid pitcher, but of course he'll go up against Logan Webb. Supposedly, I feel like the Giants, I never know what they're going to do with pitching until you see the guy step on the field. So take note of that and bet pitcher dependent in these situations like this. Anytime the Giants are involved, either bet action because it's a bullpen game, or if it's Logan Webb, bet pitcher dependent and make sure that Webb gets the start, because they've done weird things, push guys back a day for like seemingly no reason. We have no idea. I never know what they're doing. But Logan Webb, one of the better pitchers in baseball, either last outing or the one before, did struggle, but still 3.43 ERA. Advanced metrics say his ERA should be even lower. One of the top pitchers in baseball. This Giants bullpen is solid. Probably still not as good as the Mariners, but still solid. Offensively, definitely way better than the Mariners. Model says the Giants win this 65% of the time, and it should be priced at minus 182. For whatever reason, we're getting this at minus 133. I don't know. I don't like to question it. A grade price is minus 156 or better. This is a massive Giants edge. The run line edge is similarly massive. The model says that it should be plus 119 on the run line, that the Giants win just shy of 50% of the time, and an A grade would be plus 137. I think I saw plus 155 on the run line. Massive edge on the run line if you want to split your wager a little bit there. If you want to play a -1, something like that. I'm just going to focus on the minus 133. They're the home team, but there's good edges on the Giants either way. As long as it's still Logan Webb. Again, bet pitcher dependent on this one. If it's not, that changes things. Not that a Giants bullpen game is bad. It's just a Giants bullpen game makes this more of a coin toss game. Giants should be slight favorites, not as big favorites as they are. But again, on Bet Online, we've got this locked in as a pitcher-dependent bet. So if for whatever reason it's not Webb, we'll get a refund and we'll reattack it, and I'll post an update to my people on over on Dub Club. Jake, how are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's Logan Webb, because the Giants like to play close games, it seems like. I don't know, it seems like every time I turn SportsCenter on in the morning, the Giants have come back and won by one. So I want to do the run line with Webb because I think they're a better team than most likely, but just the past run they've been on has been a little scary to me. So I'm just going to play the full game there without the run line. And I just think the Mariners just can't put it together this year. They've shown parts of it where they'll just absolutely wallop some teams and put up some runs, and then their offense just disappears. It's not really been a pitching issue for them. It's been they're not scoring enough to help out pitching when the pitching's had a down day, or they're not scoring at all when the pitching's held the other team down. So I just don't see them going on the road and getting that figured out. I think the Giants win this and really don't have to worry about it too much, especially if Webb is the one going.
As someone who rosters Camilo Doval in fantasy, I feel like he's pitched a lot this season because they're always involved in tight games, and they've won a bunch of close games. The Mariners lost a bunch of close games. That doesn't necessarily project to hold out. I mean, teams should go roughly 50-50 in these one-run games, but the difference is that the Giants have put themselves in good situations. The Mariners haven't, and I don't know if that continues or not. It's just this Mariners team's been disappointing, and it's always tough to go on the road and beat a guy like Logan Webb. The Mariners, maybe trying to get it together, winning 2 out of 3 from Tampa this last weekend here. That's a great start. Winning a one-run game on Sunday. They haven't won a lot of one-run games, but, they were able to have a comeback win against Tampa, who Tampa's strength is their offense, not their bullpen, which again is so weird because I'm just so used to Tampa's bullpen being fantastic. But this Giants bullpen is pretty good, again, above average. And so it's going to be a little bit harder if they fall behind to the Giants early to make a comeback win versus a team like Tampa, who who, again, offensively is really good, but can be susceptible in the bullpen. And that's exactly what happened on Sunday. So a little bit of a different situation, especially on the road as well. Even if this is a bullpen game, I probably still think the Giants should be favored, and I probably would still bet them. I would just be hoping for better odds. So again, that's just kind of one of those, anytime the Giants are involved, Logan Webb's involved, just bet pitcher dependent. That way you just don't, you get the push and you get to rebet it at hopefully better odds and not stress about it. I know your offshores, that's usually pretty easy to figure out how to bet pitcher dependent. Again, a couple links to sign up for those if you don't have an account there in the show description. But the domestics, I was playing around with them when I was up in Indy, and they all kind of have a place to do it seems like, or a bunch of them do, but you got to figure out, each book's a little bit different. I think FanDuel was a little bit easier. DraftKings, I think you had to go to like a different page. So they're all a little bit different, but this is definitely one that I think it matters to, pitcher dependent. Of course, we're recording this here early Monday morning, and who the heck knows? It would be the first time that we record a show and then I upload it. As I'm uploading it, it's like, here's this new guy pitching. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully it's just Logan Webb, and we get, but if not, like I said, we'll update on Dub Club exactly how we're playing this. Otherwise, total on this one is 7.5. Model says 7.7. So a pass for me in the total. I would consider going under 8, even though that's not a huge model edge if it were available, but at 7.5, it's just a pass for me there. Focusing on the Giants, you can play the Giants on the run line. You can play the Giants first 5. Any way you want to look at the Giants, I think it makes sense. Again, assuming it's this price with Logan Webb. Jake, any parting words before we head out into a semi-holiday Monday?
Yeah, no, I love the 2-day games. It's great. Let's just keep this pattern going. It would be lovely, because I'm sure we're going to get some on Tuesday. Let's just, two becomes a streak. We've been here. Keep it going.
Yes, exactly. We should have day games now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know if the Cubs probably are home. We'll probably not Friday. But hey, if we get day games, 4 of the 5 days this week, that'll be good. This holiday weekend here, again, if you're off on Monday, that's nice. I know, Jake, you're off today. So if you're off, enjoy your time off. If you're not, whether it's today or tomorrow, of course, be safe, celebrating the holiday, everybody. And we will be back again for more baseball picks tomorrow, but that's all we've got then today. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Make sure you subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content provided on this channel is dropped right into your feed. And until I see you again, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.